from the AM News. It's been a very wonderful time coming. A global morning, today's global morning is a special one, and we are looking at the Workers' Day. Once again, I'll keep saying Happy Workers' Day until the program is over. I have my guest already seated in the studio. He's a legal practitioner and, of course, a public affairs analyst. And he is going to be talking to us today because a lot of people don't even know their rights as workers in Nigeria. Some persons, like I said before we went on break, only look for what they can just take home, irrespective of what they are being paid, irrespective of how they are being treated, irrespective of how their welfare is. They don't care about that. It's just what they take home because they feel it is do your work no matter how and just get back home. But today we will be looking at labor law, the rights of Nigerian workers. And I have with me here Peterson Ihueze. He's a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. It's good to have you join us, Barrister.
It's a pleasure, my brother. It's good to be here.
I think I should be saying Happy Workers' Day.
Yes, all of us are workers in the and we are workers and contributing our quota to the national development.
That's so good. Now, we want to look at the labor law. Okay. All right. Do we really have labor law in Nigeria? Because some persons don't even know what labor law is. So what's labor law, and if we have it in Nigeria?
Yes, we have labor law in Nigeria by virtue of Laws of Federation 2004, which regulates the relationship between the employer and the employee in the country, the entitlement, and what is expected for each party to do in the course of the employment. So the labor law, of course, from time to time, the president will amend it. Of course, we saw when it was amended in 2019, which minimum wage was paid at 30,000 naira. And of course, the recent one that was done by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that paid the minimum wage to 70,000 naira.
Okay. Now, as a worker, what if someone employs a worker? What is the right of the worker as it has to do with the employment?
Okay, basically, principally, the requirement is when you employ somebody, you pay the person the salary or the wage at the end of the month or at the end of the day, as the case may be. So apart from the principal demand, which is a payment of salary, there is also a requirement for the payment of other entitlements, which the law provides, something like a contributory pension fund, something like insurance and other provisions that are provided by the law to ensure that insurance and other incentives that are provided for this security and protection of the worker. Most importantly, the law mandates the employee to ensure that there is conducive environment for the worker. And also, if it is in a place that the work is hazardous, the law provides for protection of the employer. We've seen in companies where you see that the company will provide something like safety boots, helmets, and other safety measures to ensure that the laborers or the workers are protected in the course of the employment.
All right. What if you get employed and all these things are not in place? Because some places, the only thing they do is just come, look at you, look at your qualification and what the company can pay you, and they just pay. Some don't even pay up to the minimum wage. Is it against the law?
Yes, the law provides that for a company or an individual to pay minimum wage, you must employ at least not less than 50 persons. So, because we have petty traders that need sales guests, we have small scale and on-scale companies that are coming up, or enterprises. So, of course, such strict measures are applicable to persons that can have employed 50 persons and above. So, if it is less than 50 persons, of course, it will not be applicable to you. So that is the position. When you are, of course, when you are employed, when you have people that are under your employment, the law provides that you make the place conducive. If you are not doing that, it means that you are playing foul to the law.
Okay, meaning if I get you right, it means if your staff strength is not up to 50,
Yes.
you are not mandated to pay minimum wage.
Yes.
So if your staff, because like I was saying something during my introduction, I said the employees have their right and the employers also have their right, and each of these rights needs to be respected. We have seen situations whereby queries been given in organizations, where people, some even resort to sack. Is there any laid down procedure for the issuing of query, suspension, and termination of appointment, or it is at the discretion of the organization, the employer?
Yes, labor law provides for means by which employment can be terminated. Okay? If it is employment of weeks, 1 day notice is enough. If it's employment of months, 1 month, less than 2 years, 1 week is enough. If it is less than 5 years, 2 months is enough. But if it is more than 5 years, it requires 1 month notice, okay, of the termination and payment, or payment in lieu of the notice. So if you want to give notice of termination, it means that the employment will be terminated in 1 month. Of course, either party can give notice to that effect. So then, if you are unjustly terminated, there are employment that have statutory flavor. What I mean by statutory flavor is employment that backs by the law. Any employment that is by the government agencies, government ministry, or government statutory corporation, incorporated or corporations, they are employment that has statutory flavor. So you cannot dismiss that person except there is laid down procedure being complied with. But if it's employment that has no statutory flavor, something like somebody's company, private company, or individual companies, those ones can dismiss. You don't actually need a reason, you understand, to disengage employer. But the requirement is that you give the required notice. Okay? Then even if you go to court, the only thing that the court can order is for the payment of the money that is in lieu of the notice, or any other entitlement or benefit that is agreeable to the employer. But if it is employment that is regulated by the statutes, which means any company that is by creation of the legislature, whether state or federal or even at the local government level, okay, the court can order for reinstatement of that employer, because that employment has statutory flavor. But if it is not, the only thing that the court can order is compensation, monetary compensation, then, or any other compensation that is agreeable benefit. Because the law cannot enforce unwilling employee on the employer, okay? The law cannot force an employee on the unwilling employer. So it must be with the consensual agreement of the employer that I want to employ this person. I like the face of this person. So if the person says, I don't like your face, I don't want you to work for me, of course it is his business. He has the power and the right to do whatever he wants in his business, provided he does not go foul to the law.
Okay, provided it does not go foul to the law. Today is Workers' Day, and of course, a lot of workers have these questions in their mind, as it has to do with welfareism, okay, of the worker. What are the things, when we talk about welfare, because a lot of people are so concerned about that. You even talked about it while you were doing your introduction. When we say welfare, okay, workers' welfare, what are we referring to?
Yes, by virtue of Labour Act of 2004, it provides that if a worker or a staff is going on a journey or traveling outside 16 kilometers, that the organization will cater for the transportation. These are one of the things. Then that's why in organization where you see some people going outside the duty or off duty, or going outside the environment, to work. You see them giving them transport allowance. Okay, then there is transport allowance in that the law provides that. Then there are other incentives. It depends on the PR or the management of individual companies or individual corporations or even government entities. Then the incentive, of course, in the government sector, we see where, of course, contributory pension. We also have insurance. We have also mortgage, which, of course, not less than 2.5% of the person's paycheck will be deposited or will be, deposited every month for the person's housing insurance, which which a federal mortgage bank houses the money. At the end of the day, the person can also, take a loan or have a housing application or housing incentive in that respect. That on the housing. We have also seen on pension, which at the end of the day, contributory pension, that every month a specific percentage of the person's take-home pay check will be deducted for pension. At the end of the day, the person will have that as pension. Then we also have incentive that it goes with some organizations have come up with insurance, health insurance, that are applicable to most organizations, even non-government organizations. So these are the incentives that are accruable. Then also for a woman or a woman that is there is a leave that a woman goes, which is a maternity leave. That maternity leave is 6 weeks to the person to the time of giving birth, and 6 weeks after the time of giving birth. And also after that, upon the resumption, the woman also has, by virtue of a provision of Labour Act, has 2 extra 30 minutes to take care of the baby. That's why you see women that are giving that are nursing mothers will always keep their baby very close to the crèche or school or whatever that is very close to their work environment, so that those times they will go and breastfeed the baby and come back and all. So these are the incentives that is accruable. But unfortunately, that in most states, that when these are when somebody retires, payment of these monies will be another problem.
That's the question I wanted to ask, because I've seen a lot of pensioners even dying in the process.
Their own bargain.
But then, why is it like that? Why do we have, even in government parastatals, you see people struggling to get their pension? This pension is not being paid. Then at the end of the day, you see people, you see elderly people going for screening, going for all this. Is it that we don't have a good database? Because some of them are even being bedridden to come for things like screening, and this screening take days. Some will have to pay out of wherever they are getting the money from. Why do we have all these situations?
Well, the issue is a failure of the system. Okay, because most organized organizations, we don't have such issues. So we usually have such problem at the state level. In fact, I read 2 days ago, one of the governors, he said he said screen Abi, he wants to do something about the upgrading of the data of the pensioners or something. And this is something that should have gone automatically. As you are pulling out from service, you automatically be translated into a pensioner, and all your pension and gratuity, will start running immediately. But we have seen that at the state level, most regularly, they have not been living up, not all the states anyway, they have not been living up to their expectations. So it's a call for people to, government especially, to live up to their billings, so that it will encourage those who are working. Because when you have the assurance that if I work, at the end of the day, when I go home, when my employment will be terminated, or when I will, retire, that I have a reasonable something to go home, it will lessen the person's pressure. It will lessen the person's quest for corruption. It will even encourage the person to give more, because he has a security that is going to fall back on. So it's a call on the government to, and not just the government, corporate individuals, to ensure that they keep to the bargain, their side of the bargain.
All right, I'm taking you back a little bit. I had to talk about that pension because we're in the media space. We've had a lot of them talk to us severally, and we've seen so many of them suffering, after the several years of service. Coming back to staff welfareism, everything you mentioned, you listed, is it just for private or for public, or is for both, the welfare, the staff welfare?
Okay, just like I said before now, that if you have in your employment 50 and above persons, so it's automatically applicable to you.
Okay.
Yes, but if you are not, you will also do it in a way that will suit you, that the company or your institution or your organization can carry. In fact, we've seen in Germany where government, assist the private sector to pay minimum wage. When the minimum wage was increased, because the private sector cannot sustain it. Government, by way of incentive, pay so amount, the difference will be paid by the government in order to maintain the esteem of the citizens, both people in private and the public sector, so that they will be at par, because of course it's the same market that they go, it is the same expenses and also the same value of the money that they are being used or expended. So that is what is in that regard. So it is done applicable by the government institution and such institution that have the capacity by way of this parameter that the law use. Then, but other micro sectors, let me use that word, micro, small sectors, they do it according to their capacity.
Yes, so yes. They can also improvise such that they can also have something deducted from the staff salary to be paid as pension. That's what you mean?
No, what I'm saying is that it's not applicable to them because they don't have the capacity to be paying the pension, because they are not under the obligation to pay the minimum wage. So when you don't pay the minimum, we can't, money that is not even up to minimum, we can't be deducting pension, housing, federal mortgage bank and all that, mortgage and all that. So it will not be applicable to such institutions.
All right, I was still talking about labor law in Nigeria, and of course, how the rights of Nigerian workers have been trampled upon and what their rights are, because a lot of people don't even know their rights. Do workers have a way, apart from protests, because we heard in some states, they say they were not coming out for the Workers' Day because of the economic situation and what's going on in those states. But now, is there any way of seeking redress if this law is being breached by either the employer or the employee?
Yes. In fact, we have done very well in the aspect of judiciary that we have a special court created for labor-related issues, which is National Industrial Court. Okay? We have also seen this National Industrial Court has jurisdiction to entertain cases that borders on labor-related matters. Okay? And because it's a special court, special attention is paid to that sector or to that aspect of the economy. And even in practice, in National Industrial Court, the rules of evidence of technicalities does not apply. So it is labor-friendly court. Okay? So these are measures that employers can take. And remember that I said that if it is employment that has statutory flavor, that the courts can order for reinstatement, just like happened in University of Ibadan, 44 university lecturers and all that they were reinstated and all the entitlements were paid. So when such right is, breached, the remedy, one of the remedies that is applicable to an individual is, of course, to go to court to ventilate your right, which we have seen where courts order some monetary compensation to the individual, to the claimant in that regard. So the court is there. And also we have also seen where the labor go on strike to press home their demand. We have also seen where labor, protest by way of protest. They can do that to register their displeasure over a particular policy or decision of the government. We have seen that. So these are measures that the employee can use to ventilate their anger or their what they feel that is not going on normal in the organization.
Yes, we're talking about employees all the while. Let's talk about the employer a little bit. There are some staff that are very stubborn, that don't keep to the law of the organization most times, as it has to do with a staff, because we talked about termination and how the termination can actually be done. If someone is terminated, does the person have any right to seek redress for any reason?
Yes, I said that if you are unlawfully terminated.
Okay. When you say unlawful, what do you mean unlawful?
Termination that does not follow the due process of the law. That is unlawful termination. Unlawful means something that is not in accordance with the law. So what you do, you seek redress in the court of law. Even now, I'm presently handling a matter in the National Industrial Court. Okay? And I've handled this, not just one. So when employment is unlawfully terminated, of course, before you be terminated, there are laid down procedures. Disciplinary committee, giving the person fair hearing, unless if you are invited, you did not come. Okay? So you don't just dismiss an employer. There must be a disciplinary committee as laid down by the law. The person will appear, and also, make presentation, and a decision will be taken. So
by the disciplinary committee,
yes, and
not just the CEO.
Yes, and they recommend to the management. A disciplinary committee will be set up to look into it, even in an organization and an association. When there is an infraction of the law or a disciplinary action, the usual is to set up a disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee will now make a recommendation to the management. Then at that instance, the CEO or whoever that is in charge will sit as a board and now take the recommendation of the disciplinary committee. So once those procedures are not followed, even in the private sector, when it is not followed, the person can go to court and say, please, look, I was unjustly terminated. And what will usually happen is that when such persons are sacked, of course, they won't pay them the entitlement. So the person can go to court and say, yes, you have a right to sack me, but you did not follow due process. Therefore, I am entitled to this and that and that. Since I did not steal, I did not commit any gross misconduct. Even if there should be a laid down procedure. You hear me? Fair hearing. I was not granted fair hearing. So the court will order those things that were made for lawful termination, those entitlement and benefit. The court will order that.
Okay, but would the court say, okay, is it because we didn't set up a committee, disciplinary committee? All right, let's go and set up a disciplinary committee.
No,
or that it was not set up initially?
No. I said if it's employment that has statutory flavor, the court will order for reinstatement. You can even order for reinstatement because as at that time, in the eye of the law, the due process, the law views it that you were not even terminated because due process has not been complied with. So the court will order that he should be reinstated. Then if you feel that there is an infraction, set up a disciplinary committee and do the needful. That's what happened in the University of Ibadan, that the lecturers were reinstated. Okay? The issue is not whether there was an infraction or there was a disciplinary issue. The issue is that the due process was not followed. So, but if it is an employment that does not have, the backing of the law, what the law will say, no problem. You were unlawfully terminated or lawfully terminated. Therefore, you are entitled to this monetary compensation because this is what your rules of engagement or your contract of employment provides.
As a matter of fact, the right of Nigerian workers and the right of Nigerian employers should not be tampered with. It is Workers' Day, and we're looking at the right of the Nigerian workers. Do we have labor law? My guests have already established the fact that there is labor law and what it entails. Now we've been talking about the employee and employers all the while. Finally, we're rounding up because my other guest is already seated. But then, before I allow Barrister to go, Barrister, let's look at a misbehaving employee. You know, some employees are very stubborn. They don't even know that there are terms and conditions for their employment. In such cases, how can it be handled?
Okay, well, in personnel management, that's what they call stick and carrot. Stick is a situation whereby you use the stick to discipline an employee. Then carrot is a principle that you make out program or event to appreciate the employer that has, the employee that has done well. Okay, so in that stick, which is disciplinary measures, we've seen query, we have seen suspension, we have seen even sack. Okay, we have even seen a situation whereby in an organization, somebody, let me use in a football parlance, somebody being benched. You can have a good player, but because of indiscipline of that player, you tell the player to remain on the bench. It's part of the discipline. So it also applies in the working place. If there are other things that project the person's interest or any other benefit in the organization, because of the person not being in compliance, not giving in, not being in compliance with the rules and regulations of the organization, such measures will be taken to discipline the person, to ensure that the person live up to its billing. And another thing is that if you don't discipline the person, it will demoralize other workers in the organization, because they say, this person came late yesterday, nothing was happened, nothing happens, no disciplinary measure. Is it me that did this that you are coming? You know that kind of issue. So that is why it is very, very important to maintain that discipline in the organization.